And you are listening to VORW International, the voice of the Report of the Week. And thank you for tuning in to today's broadcast. So, getting on to the feature discussion of the show, we're kind of getting right into it this time around. Smartphone and internet addiction. It's one of those topics that I raised a little bit long ago. It was probably, I would wager, probably 6 months or more ago. And I remember I was mostly talking about that with kids, with, like young kids, 5-6-year-olds being addicted to their phones. But this topic is generalized. It's really to anyone of any age, anywhere. And in the last program, I asked a question. I was saying, do you think that you are addicted to the computer, to the internet, to your smartphone? I mean, you hear so much about it. You hear about smartphone addiction. You hear about internet addiction, even, of course, social media, video game addiction, etc., etc. And I was wondering, of course, with there being seemingly such a great prevalence of it, with so many people talking about it, so many people, bringing it up in one capacity or another, I just wanted to know, do members of the public at large actually consider themselves addicted or not? And then as a follow-up question, I said, understanding that, how do you think it's going to progress going forward? How do you think technology is going to progress? So we got a few interesting responses anyway, and it's going to be interesting. When I was sorting through them, I saw a lot of people. There was some variety, a lot of mixed responses. You had some people who were they were very straightforward. They were saying, I absolutely am addicted. But there were other people who were kind of saying, no, I don't think I am. And it was interesting to see. And I always like it when there's like a certain diversity in the responses that we get. Because then you get a little bit of everything. It's not like everything is going this one way or going another way. There's some agreement, there's some disagreement, and I always like those differing viewpoints. And it'll be interesting. Now, going forward, the question that I have for next week's show, and it's a tradition of mine, I always like to ask a question, get listener responses, and then we get into the next program. Next Thursday is Halloween. So I think, even though, again, a few months ago I did a show about this, I mean, come on, it's Halloween, may as well. If you have anything spooky, anything creepy, anything pertaining to the paranormal, just share it. Share your stories. We'll just talk about various ghosts and all that stuff. So if you have anything Halloween themed, any paranormal experiences, paranormal stories, anything you would like to share, and really anything that you find appropriate for Halloween, of course for a Halloween show, send it in and submit it to VORWinfo@gmail.com. That's VORWinfo@gmail.com. If you had any paranormal experiences, any capacity, anything you want to talk about, you're always welcome, and you will be on the air. So that's what it all comes down to, and we'll get a good show for you next week. But one interesting thing, going back over to internet addiction, and one of these things that I wanted to talk about, it is fascinating, and I think it does go to show, in my opinion anyway, its prevalence. To the extent that when I search addicted to internet, like the first thing that comes up, I'm seeing right here on Google, it's like addiction recovery, internet addiction disorder, all of these like very serious medical resources. So it's interesting. I think it does go to show that there is something that's come of it. There's one interesting news article I saw that was posted the other day, and this was in regards to South Korea. But I have a feeling that they're kind of they're playing it down, and I think they're doing this intentionally. But they were saying that teenagers in South Korea are so addicted to their smartphones, and granted, of course, the social media and whatnot that comes along with it, So much so that there are actually these like internet, internet rehab, detox camps that they have set up, that you can go there, and I guess, if you feel you have a problem, you could enroll in one of these camps, and I guess the cost is free for the most part, aside from paying for food, and they unplug you, and it's this literal program to try and break free, of being chained to the internet and so on and so forth. So it's just interesting. But the way the article makes it out, it's like they're trying to say that this is only a problem in South Korea, and I disagree with that very strongly. I think in any developed country where you can use the internet and it's not censored, it's not suppressed, you're tied down to it in a sense. I mean, look at me, right? I'll be honest. I definitely rely very much on the internet. Now, the one thing I would say, I'm not addicted to social media, but I'm an outlier. I've never been a social media person, nor have I really been a smartphone person, but I'm old school, kind of like with a desktop, a laptop computer, and definitely, whenever the internet is out, I feel it. I most certainly do. So, I have my own dependency, and there's no shame in admitting that. But now going over to the email, again, VORWINFO@gmail.com, and seeing, if what you guys really have to say. So let's open it up. And real quick, I'm going to reposition the microphone here, just a little bit right there, just like that. That's fine, hopefully, no big issues there. And let's go over and see what you have to say. So Roy, in Austin, Texas, listening in on SoundCloud, says, as for your first question, I am not addicted to my phone or the internet. As for the phone, I do not watch videos, read articles, or play games on it. I occasionally use the camera, and I mainly use it as a watch, texting, and talking to people. And the texting and talking is mostly for work. I have way more phone than I need or use. And he says, I am on the internet or in the PC a lot, music, movies, research, podcast, games, etc., although I do not consider myself addicted. If I wasn't listening to music on the internet, then I would be putting on a CD. So would the question be if I am addicted to the CD? Would the question be if I am addicted to music? But he said behavioral addiction is a hard one. I think the only one who would know is the subject himself. Two MMORPG enthusiasts would look the same to an outsider. One of them spends a lot of time online, but still fulfills all his responsibilities and also maintains his social obligations. The other one lets the game take over his life and neglects all other areas. They both spend an ungodly amount of time playing EverQuest. All right, thank you, Roy, from Austin, Texas. Going over to his very short response, but to Trev, he says, am I addicted to the internet? Yes, I am. I'm too tired to go into detail, but thought I would answer anyways. Well, thank you so much, Trev. I really appreciate that. And no matter what, I appreciate that you took the time to go ahead and formulate a response, long or short. So it's much appreciated. Let's go over to Aravik. Says, hello, Review Bra, love the latest podcast. When it comes down to internet addiction, when I look at my own behavior, I would say that I am addicted. I've never thought about it that way, but every morning I check Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, NPR, Pokemon Go, and Harry Potter Wizards Unite. It's like having coffee in the morning, and throughout the day I periodically check back into all those sites. I think that our smartphones make it so easy to get online that it becomes habitual. Now, I'm not sure if it's a bad thing, though, except you're not actually interacting with real people, just the online personalities. But when you actually go to work or out to run errands, that's when you do interact with people face-to-face, so I think that there needs to be a balance between the two. That was from Aravik. Thank you so much for your thoughts there. A little bit of a water break. And, it's interesting that you mentioned, and it is an interesting thought. Like you said, I do consider myself addicted to the internet, but it's something that I really don't think of that much. It's just it's like my morning routine. It's just what I do. It's not like I'm metaphorically, shooting up every day. And it's not like that in regards to addiction, right? It's just something that I do. So that's really interesting, but I do agree with what you said, that it all comes down to having a balance, because I think in today's world, the way that things are, you just can't, you can't fully disconnect, right? We're just too dependent on it at this point. But I think there is a way to have that balance. All right, Ryan is checking in, says, I think that the internet is designed to be addictive instead of focusing on the person-to-person interactions. It makes you the product instead of just a member of the community of the interconnected world. It all comes down to money. So thank you, Ryan. And hey, that's how a lot of things are in this world. It all comes down to money in the end. You break it down, and you just, you'll find a way. It always does. Just like you look at the PG&E outages, right? That's, in the end, I feel it's financially motivated. Everything is, practically. And, that's what it's all about, making that money. Eric in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, says, this is the first time replying to one of your questions. I've only recently started listening in, so thank you. Welcome to the show, Eric. My 2 cents on the social media addiction issue you raised is that it's going to get a lot worse, at least for a time. I'm only 22 years old, and it's striking to me how children growing up now have their own smartphones, when even 10 years ago, smartphones were something only some adults owned. Indeed, I think the scariest aspect of smartphone technology addiction and dependence is the fact that we're giving these devices to children who do not have the capacity to discipline and regulate themselves. I don't really blame parents for this. Generations ago, it was TV that was the big scare as far as people, and especially children, being overly dependent on it. But with smartphones and social media, the potential damage is much greater. And I think society as a whole tends to move to excesses like a pendulum. For the next decade or two, we'll keep using our devices way too much until larger groups of people begin to move away from them in a conscious effort to improve mental health. We're already seeing this in rehab centers for internet/gaming addictions, and interjecting there, that's exactly like I was showing earlier in the broadcast, right? In South Korea, you have these not anti-internet, but like internet rehabilitation camps, right, that the kids can go to literally try and have this issue remedied. But anyway, continuing on with your letter, I believe you also mentioned potential future technologies like being completely reliant, like neural linking, where devices are connected to us inside our own brains. And this worries me quite a bit, and I think that will be the breaking point, where some people will become completely reliant on technology even to perform basic tasks, while some people will begin to move away from this way of life and try to regain their independence, but with future inventions, it's always impossible to tell. And he says, personally, I can definitely say I used to be addicted to YouTube and social media, but now after immersing myself more into the world of books and reading, and limiting screen time, I can confidently say I feel much healthier and better overall than even 1 or 2 years ago. And when I do use my devices, I pay more attention to what I'm doing and how much time I'm spending on them. So thank you, Eric. Good on you. Yeah, good on you for breaking free. And look, it's a hard thing to do because we're dependent on it even to this point. And yeah, I agree with you in regards to things just kind of getting a lot worse. And that's my biggest fear. when it comes down to it, is that, going forward, however long it's going to be, maybe, sometimes I think when we look at the future, we kind of have an overly optimistic look at things. I remember seeing a video, I guess it was a couple years ago, maybe it was back in 2012, 2013, what the world would be like in 2020. Now, we're pretty much in 2020 at this point. Were the predictions that I saw in this video, did it come true? No, not at all. It was way too optimistic. It was everything in our house is going to be connected, and everything is going to be like a touch screen. Like the walls are going to be interactive, and the door is going to be, and the light switch and everything is going to be internet connected. But I guess in some places that is the case, but in others it's the wall is still just a wall, and the door is still just a door, and that's it. It's not a smart door or anything. It's not really necessary. But one thing that I really do believe in is the neural linking, where I think going forward a few decades, that's going to happen. And they're going to hook your brain up into these, where it's literally going to be your mind, your consciousness, your soul, that's going to have whatever it ends up being. Maybe it'll be a chip. Maybe they'll find a way to wirelessly do it. I have no idea. But it's going to be connected. And you, yourself, will be the internet-connected device. And I think the advertisers will be able to read your mind, and, you will not have any privacy anymore. And people might be able to hack you. They might be able to, literally take you over. And that scares me. When that technology emerges, it's going to be like the new smartphone, where it's going to be it's going to be revolutionary. And granted, it'll have its benefits, but of course it has its drawbacks too. And that'll be the breaking point for me. I would not want that to happen. I wouldn't want to ever be a part of that, ever. It's I'm all for advancement, but it gets to a point where it's just a little too much. It's just a little too much, and I'm just not comfortable with that at all. But I think, like you said, there will be two groups. You will have people who will be all for it, and will literally be, I think, dependent to the point of no return. And we're not there yet. You can still, cut away from this stuff. It'll have a toll on you, but you'll be able to live still. I think it'll get to that point, though, where it's just, you can't anymore. But the one question is, if you don't go along with that technology, is the world going to leave you behind? Are they going to leave you to rot and to, be gone? So that's an interesting thing, but yeah, it's something that I worry for going forward. That's my honest thoughts. And then let's go over to Ian, who says, I myself am not addicted to the internet nor my smartphone, though that wasn't always the case. I came of age when the internet was in its infancy. As the technological and digital footprints of the internet grew, I found myself caught up with the information, entertainment, and risque things that became available to a person within a few keystrokes and clicks. By the time I hit my late 20s, I felt as if something was amiss within myself, a disconnection and discontentment. I felt as if I was missing out on life, and I made a drastic cut to my internet usage, including all social media. It was difficult, but like all addictions, there will be a withdrawal period. Life improved. I set objective, real-world goals, and made far more progress in improving my lot than I had up to that point before. And, he says, I still use the internet, of course. I have an Instagram. I help with my business. My wife runs a Facebook page associated with the business. And sometimes on our downtime, we'll stream some movies or TV. But I think the internet is a very positive thing when used with perspective and discipline, but it's very easy to fall into a trap. But as far as the future, I think it will absolutely get worse. And I believe it's within our nature to pursue pleasure and entertainment and forsake the hard work and diligence it takes to make improvements in our daily lives. And he recommends looking at the Spielberg movie Ready Player One, which absolutely, that's a good book, a good movie too. And he says, I can very much see a future as the one portrayed in that, we're an oasis where people go to live their fantasies or escape the problems of their life, forsaking the real world for a false digital one, even getting to the point where they'll convince themselves that the digital, internet-driven world is the real world. So it's very interesting, Ian, and thank you so much.